you. Thank you very much.
Can I have the clicker?
You can.
Right, guys, after you've just digested, we've got a load of work in front of you. It's my job to pick you up, and give you a bit of optimism, maybe put a smile on your face. So I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Lee Strafford. I'm born and raised Sheffield with a few diversions around Europe and a bunch of time in London. I'm going to speak about some things very early on that I have no credibility to talk about at all, because I wasn't even alive when all this happened. But most of what I'm going to talk about, I have lived through. Reason being, at the tender age of 14, I was in London working at the top end of the industry, telecoms industry. And then in latter years, the thing that I'm most known for is co-founding PlusNet. PlusNet, a lot of the things I'm going to talk about, we did and we invented in the late 90s. As part of my role at PlusNet, I was also part of Insight Enterprises' global management team. And I joined that global management team when they were at $1 billion, and they kicked me out when they were at $4 billion. And to put that in context, Insight was Microsoft's second largest reseller of software in North America, and relatively high position in other regions as well. They were an outsourced provider to IBM, and they were HP's biggest hardware reseller as well. So some of you may know me as this little ISP guy and this silly football thing, but there's actually a bunch of big industry experience behind all this. So, not going back hundreds of years, but into the middle of the 20th century, leadership from an industrial giant's perspective was all about the focus on the corporate environment. Huge emphasis in forcing everybody to conform with that. Very much silo-driven, and the management team is a dictatorship. Oh, sorry, I forgot my health warning. Part of what I'm going to talk about today is designed to create frustration in you, because unfortunately I've experienced what you could do given free rein. It's your job to try and catch up with what we've been doing. So I don't make no apology for creating that frustration and hopefully through the course and then through your future jobs, you'll make those changes. But the challenge isn't to get to as insanely as efficient as some of the things I'm going to talk about here. So, next one, please. For me, everything changed pre- and post-internet. So, talking about the pre-internet giants, a lot of the similar principles, but the big benefit those guys had was they got digitized information. So it made it easier to get the information up and decisions be made and then run back down again. But it was still a dictatorship. It was still driven by silos. And in terms of innovation that the staff saw, or the key workers or customers saw, it wasn't all that great. It wasn't exponential innovation. Next one, please. Whole world changes post-internet. Now, just as an aside here, this just proves that technology isn't the answer for everything. This is created as a PowerPoint, is then converted to PDF. In the PowerPoint, in the bottom right-hand corner, there is an Apple logo. PDF's owned by Adobe. Adobe and Apple don't get on that well. There might be a conspiracy there, not sure. Yeah? The big difference for the tech giants post-internet is those businesses had the benefit and have the benefit of real-time reporting of their entire business at their fingertips all the time. That means their organisation isn't set up to find stuff out and control it. It's to get on with doing stuff. And that means there's a completely different cultural environment in these organisations. One of the biggest differences you'll find in these companies is instead of the corporate values being imposed on the individual, to retain and incentivise individuals, what these companies have done is said, we're in the business of search, we're in the business of social media, we don't care about that anymore. What we care about is our talent. So we're going to have corporate values that reflect people values. So we want people to feel comfortable, we want people to feel energised, we want people to feel that they can push the boundary within the scope or framework of our business operation. Now you can apply that to public agencies and you can apply that to private sector as well, because if you're in the police, you're in the scope of policing. Yeah? And I know it gets a bit harder to do some of these things in a police environment, but please bear with the analogy. The next big thing that happens is the management team moves from control to development of strategy and fundraising and partnerships. The next thing that happens is because it's about solving problems, in an environment where silos are not sacrosanct, you end up with matrix teams. So there are always people with different disciplines. They have to be slightly different orientations, but the best results you get is getting different people from different disciplines working on a common issue, and that applies in these businesses. The immediate benefit you get from that is, instead of in a old dictatorship type environment where a few people are making decisions at the very top, it means that the bulk of resources are able to make decisions. So not only are they aware and able to move faster, but the people are allowed to get on and do things within the remit that's created, which means more things can get done, because it doesn't have to go all the way up and come back down again. The next big change as well, and this only came about because of the internet, is because you're connected to your customers in your supply chain, you can develop products with your customers in supply chain. Back in the days of old, and this is why things were done slowly, you had to develop some IP or develop a product. You had to keep it under wraps until you were certain it was going to be a success, and then you'd spend a wodge and a half on marketing and hopefully make it work. Post-internet, you get it out there as quickly as you can. You slap a beta sign on it, which basically says, you know, this is free, there's no guarantee here, don't expect a public sector guarantee around healthcare services on this bit here, but we're going to work and we're going to develop this with you. And when you then get that up to a proper guaranteed environment or a guaranteeable environment, you take the beta sign off, you put a service level agreement on it or a service level guarantee on it, and it becomes a contracted environment. What that did is it allowed for innovation to be done quicker with lower expectancy, but something else magical happened as well. There was a fundamental flaw in developing things in a lab environment, because more often than not, when they then released it out into the real world said, ugh, I don't want that. And then people have spent loads and loads of money coming to a conclusion of, wouldn't it have been better if we could have done this step by step and tested things out and got feedback on what we needed to do here with our customers? Well, today you can do that. You can do that as simple as via an app with a community of interest. You know, these are the opportunities you have now. So next one, please. My main message here is the operational efficiency that was created by these post-internet tech giants, of which PlusNet was a little version of it, and we did all these things, gives you a huge advantage in terms of competing, whether that's taking X amount of budget and using it really well, or doing a better job than somebody else and taking market share off them. Ultimately, it means that you end up with a more confident workforce, a happier workforce, a more confident and happy shareholder or stakeholder base, but more importantly than all than that, customers who trust you more because of the transparency, because of the engagement. Customers who give you more, spend more with you because of the confidence, because of the trust, because of the transparency. These traits explain why, and we've all marveled at, you know, Apple's market cap, $500 million, wondering which company is going to be the first $1 trillion market cap business the world's ever seen. It's an easy answer. It's not a specific answer, though. It'll be a company that engages via the internet and exhibits many of the traits that I've been speaking to here. If I bring it down to a PlusNet context, because this is all very much pie in the sky out there, what's this got to do with what you can do in little old Sheffield City region? Well, we started experimenting with this stuff in 1998, 1999. We were forced to meet these challenges through a combination of absence of funding, may sound familiar in a minute, austerity. You know, we're not swimming in millions and millions of venture capital in the city region. We built PlusNet with no money. It was a collaboration. We built it organically. So we had an absence of funding. We didn't have lots of people that we could turn to give us the easy answer to what to do. We're faced a period of massive change where you can't lean on a playbook and go, oh, well, we'll just do that, let's pick that off and let's figure this out. And we didn't actually have a ready available resource of skilled up people that we could just recruit in and go, oh, you sort it out. We had to figure out a bunch of these things from scratch. We had the benefit of being an internet business and using the internet as a platform to figure these things out. And we had enough naivety and arrogance to think that we could just do it. We had the energy behind us to do that. And I've got to say, if I describe the demographic of PlusNet people that created all of the value, it was, you know, as good an example as you would get in the room today. Yeah, we had PhDs. We also had Hallam graduates. But we had school dropouts. We had people that had come through industry and weren't happy enough to work for the rest of their lives doing what they'd been told that they had to do. We had those entrepreneurs, and I agree with the description, by the way. It's not about making money, it's about making change. We had those entrepreneurial people that wanted to try and build a better way of doing things. And we built into our operational systems those traits. We built in our people values, so we had a commitment to encouraging people to take risks. We actually called it Dare to Fail, and it was always a slightly strange term. We promoted this, and why did we use the term Dare to Fail? Real simple. To somebody that's a brilliant academic qualified person that you would think would be hugely arrogant and hugely confident, well, there's always this fear of, will I look stupid, even at that level? So we wanted to encourage people to take the risk, to step out there and say something at any time. To somebody that's come through a poor educational environment or a bad working environment, we wanted to encourage them to not bring that culture into this work environment. Let me be clear, Dare to Fail was across the board, and it applied to me as the boss as well. We encouraged people to pull me up where I was wrong. We encouraged people to pull anybody up where there was a problem. And there was an internal need for this, because we were moving so fast, doing so much, that if something was wrong and it wasn't spotted, and it was allowed to go on for too long, it could end up being a huge issue that we couldn't deal with at a later point. We promoted inclusiveness. We promoted sharing. Every project that we delivered or developed through PlusNet had a rule associated with it, and that rule was there must always be a very bright person, and a red brick graduate, a poly graduate, somebody with a practical background, and somebody from a regulatory background, whether that was finance or legal or project management. A team always had to be made up of those components. We carved up what we would decide to do within the business based around 3 buckets. Is it good for shareholders? Is it good for co-workers? Is it good for customers? And ideas were thrown into those buckets. And we had a company-wide review on an ongoing basis. So a quarterly roll-up, monthly reviews, and the quarterly plan would be updated on a monthly basis. Not proposing you do that. That's moving far too fast. But that whole process was democratic and transparent. It was qualitative, it was challenge-based, so it was a competition, but everybody in the company got to see this. In fact, on the transparency point, the only things that people in our organisation didn't get to see were legal HR issues, or when we were a floated company, serious disclosure issues around stock price sensitivity items. Everything else was available through our self-bit intranet environment. So, what do you get out of all of that? Middle management and staff are properly empowered. The people values become the corporate values. And that's the thing. You guys have got the opportunity to make that shift in your organisation. It's promoting change that ends up resulting in cultural change being recognised. That this is the kind of organisation we are. These are the kinds of people that we encourage in this organisation. What's really powerful, and we could spend days debating it, is the focus in our world on putting the data in the right people's hands. Ultimately, if everything you're trying to do involves some form of data, then the challenge really is, I need to get the right people the data that they need so that they can do things themselves. The old industrial approach was, I'll force people to come to me. You do that, you become a bottleneck. If you get people the ability to do things, if you empower people, whether that's in a delegated authority perspective or if you build a platform that enables people to do things, then you can literally create a scalable model as opposed to a non-scalable model. And the scalability is the key here, whether that's doing things with less or whether it's about having an even greater impact. Next one, please. This is the really, really hard thing. If all of this is successful, then when you are taking someone around your business, social enterprise, public agency, whatever it is, if there is success in that environment, then it will be visible that there is demonstrable trust from top management down. Now, that is a statement that is slightly unfair for two reasons. One, PlusNet wasn't perfect. Facebook ain't perfect. Yeah, this is about degrees of efficiency and getting nearer and nearer to it. But with that health warning, I think that's a fair measure. It has to be reportable or evident from outside the organisation that environment is there and it is nurtured by the senior management. I would say, if I was going to be hypercritical, this program is proof that exists in your world. The only criticism I would have is, outside of the participants in this program, no one knows about it. Yeah? If there was a general awareness that this program had been invested in by your agencies collectively, then John and all his peers would look just that little bit better to everybody out there. And that goes back to the appropriate marketing point. You know, there's an importance to marketing, which is about making people aware of what needs to be done and what you're trying to do. Right? The middle management and staff know they have the scope to make decisions, and the boundaries as well. That's important. This is not about free reign chaos. Yeah? Within the operational environment, everyone is encouraged to challenge and question. That's not bitch, that's not complain, that's not create problems just for the sake of it. That's with a genuine belief of, I'm worried or I'm concerned, can we stop the bus here and have a talk about this? And it's important that people feel comfortable to do that. The silo walls, you know, in some respects, walls, structures need to be there because there are certain things that have to be done under that. But when it comes to projects or operations, from my perspective, they should be invisible. This should be about people working that way and not pushing things up. The final test, and this is, you know, this is where I end up grumbling a bit. I think we're, as a country, and this is not a public sector versus private sector discussion at all, I think as a country we aren't productive enough because we've stayed industrial approach too long. And we've still got too much politics as a result of that industrial approach. If people are busy doing stuff that makes them go home at night thinking, I've had a good day today, I'm having an impact, what you'll probably find as well is the balance sheet of that organisation, whether it's for profit or not, is pretty healthy. And when you're busy doing good things, there's a lot less backstabbing and sniping going on. You know, I'll close by saying, make no apologies for this last bit as well. Whenever I'm in one of these discussions about implementing and affecting change, the really bad news, I'll be brutally honest, I don't think we're the beneficiaries of what you're doing right now. I think we're the transition team. We're moving UK PLC from an old way of doing things to a new way of doing things. I think we'll take solace and a bit of pride from doing that job, but it's the kids coming through that are going to have the maximum benefit for this. And if we want to grow our country again the way that we have done in the past, then the generations coming through below us need the working environment that hopefully you guys are going to shape and create to drive that growth. So, last one, if you want to make any sense of what I've said, and if I've made no sense, then I'd encourage you to click on that link there when you get online next and have a read. Clue Train, in 1999, we were stressed out, running around, talking through insights with some of those other big tech companies that I referenced earlier, and saying to ourselves, are we right? Does this make sense? It's all a bit, everybody out there is saying we're nuts. You should go back to doing things traditionally. Clue Train was published in 1999. It was published by a bunch of guys, a lot like the guys running this course, but with slightly different friends, because these are Silicon Valley based guys. And their friends are the founders of some of these businesses. And it was the first statement around many of the messages that I've been talking to you today. When Google published its 10 rules of do no evil, which based on its involvement in China, it's broken a bunch of those commitments. It was essentially done based on Clue Train. Yeah? So, slightly overrun. I tried to get you back onto 1:30. I'm looking forward to doing Q&A after letting John have a go at you guys, and hopefully we can explore some of these themes later. All right, thanks.